Quite the talent he is. Proper chatterbox yada. If you're keen, it'll be brilliant. Today, we're going to keep it simple. I'll bark out a basic command and you watch. Keen to know? He'll set your tail wagging. Does mine, hence why I'm backing him. Right then, Wookie here. Do take a seat, won't you? Give us your full attention while we listen to my pal, Yada.
Of all things pertaining to matzah. Now, when we recognize that this was the place and time and the person that God chose to reveal his name to the world, one option would have been for God to write it on an enormous tablet and have it, streak across the sky. I am Yahowah, such that everyone could see it on earth at the same time. But he didn't do that, did he? Even now, if God wanted everyone to capitulate to him, to do exactly as he has requested, he could boom his voice so that all in the world could hear it. He could perform all sorts of frightening miracles so that everyone was intimidated. But let's go through the last time that God tried that kind of an episode. It was during the Exodus. He had the 600,000 children of Israel. They were all freed from Mitzrayim, so they should have been exceedingly grateful. Out of slavery, being taken care of by God, had the Egyptian army swallowed by the sea. They were sent with all manner of parting gifts, so that they had flocks and they had many wealthy, great wealth in terms of the possessions that they now had with them. And they were headed to the promised land. Couldn't be any better than that. And they knew that God was with them. And so when God said, Moshe, I'm going to do a favor for everybody. We've been meeting up here on this mountain. I'm going to come off the mountain and I'm going to present myself. Of course, it'll be with light, fire, but my voice, and I'm going to let the people know that I am indeed speaking through you. So, here was God proving that he was speaking through Moshe, that he existed, and that he was the reason that the children of Israel were freed from Mitzrayim. And he didn't get 10 words out before the children of Israel said, no, go away, you frighten us. We don't ever want to see you again. We don't ever want to hear from you again. Go away and shut up. So this idea that people say, I want to hear from God, I want to see God. No. People are just not prepared to be in God's presence. That part of the problem is that we humans are so inferior to God that even if God is being, quite modest in our presence, we only seen one trillionth of his nature. It's still too overwhelming that people can't handle it. So God says, I get it. I'll speak through people. There's no reason for me ever to speak directly to anyone again. And since that time, this is the approach that God has used. I happen to like it. I agree with it. God is all in on this approach. So he chose a malach through whom he spoke. He chose this location. And he chose fire to represent him. And that is what we have. And we're going to experience that again, by the way, and not too much of a distant time. 4 years from now, when the two witnesses appear on the Temple Mount, God's going to have all sorts of miracles that take place all around them and in support of them. And ultimately, when we reach Teruah, that last day, there'll be no denying his fire, his presence, his voice. It's just going to be extraordinary. So God said to Moshe, and this is your sign. This is your signal. This is your symbol, this illustration from you. And Moshe hadn't read it at this point because God hadn't dictated it to him. But in the opening chapter of Bereshith, Genesis, which he will receive from Yahweh once he returns with the children of Israel, he would speak of the ultimate sign. He would say that the greater and lesser luminaries were signs. They were a means to volunteer to fulfill what needed to be done pursuant to the Moedim, these 7 annual meetings, the restoring witness regarding testimony. To this shall be your sign that indeed I myself have sent you. When you come out with the people from the crucibles of Egyptian oppression, I will work with you here as God upon this specific mountain. That's Shemot Names 3:12. So think about that. What God is saying, all right, you want proof? Here we are. You know that Egypt is the most powerful military on the planet at the moment. You know that the children of Israel are suffering under apartheid and genocide. They have no rights. You know that it would take a great miracle to get them released. And then for them to come all the way here, that's a miracle on top of a miracle on top of a miracle. And the fact is that not only am I going to do what's necessary to get them released, but we're to come right back here. And oh, by the way, so that there's no mistaking here, God was not going to make this a walk through tulips and lollipops. From God's point of view, if you're going to be with him, you're going to work. This was, you will work with me, abad. You will productively engage on behalf of God. And if that's not your thing, if you think that being with God is doing whatever you want and eating bonbons and watching sunsets, I got news for you. You're not going to be there. It's not going to be anything that you're going to ever experience, because God's idea of a good time is to work together, which is why he chose to conduct the Exodus alongside Moshe. And that, of course, is precisely what happened. Moshe, with considerable assist from God, led his people out of Mitzrayim, Egypt, and across the Red Sea into Arabia and right back to Mount Choreb. Having returned to this place, Moshe continued to work with Yahowah. Together, they would reveal the Torah, the teaching and guidance of our God. Now, the affirmation that Yahowah was going to accompany Moshe on this mission was evidently good enough for the reluctant liberator, as it should be for all of us. I was once called by God. I had the same situation that Moshe had. I didn't know his name at the time either. But like Moshe, I had already walked away from religion and from politics and came to despise both. So at least I was available to him. But when, he asked, he's pretty convincing. I said, all right. Yeah, we can do this. Why not? So there was only one thing really left that had to be resolved at this point. The Egyptians, like the Canaanites, Hittites, Phoenicians, Minoans, Carthaginians, Babylonians, and Assyrians, they all had a plethora of gods, all of which had names, and all of which had been credited with all manner of human endeavors. Moshe knew that the first question that he would be asked was, well, listen to him. And Moshe said to God, now look, if I go to the children of Israel, and I say to them, the God of your fathers sent me out to you, and they ask, what is his personal and proper name? What shall I say to them? Well, that's really the most important mission a man or a woman can ever undertake, reaching out to the children of Israel at God's behest. It is the most important question a man or a woman can possibly ask. What should I tell the children of Israel, God's people, is the personal and proper name of God. That has been my life's mission. You look behind me, all of these books are Yada Yahweh. They translate the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. Yada means to know. Yahweh is God's one and only name. So I have been at this now for a quarter of a century. Many may seek the will of God, of course, for their lives, and yet here it is for the accepting. Many declare that they want to know God, and yet here he is with an engraved invitation. Well, God would give Moshe a direct answer. He did not do so immediately. And I think that this is the approach that God takes towards everything. It's why we never jump into the conclusion of a prophecy, but pursue it from beginning to end. This is his approach across the board. His preference is to teach so that we go way beyond knowing to understanding. And the only way for us to understand is for us to be able to see the whole story and know how the pieces fit together. For example, on this series on knowing Yahweh's name and nature, I have 200 pages of material that's lined up to review with you. And these are just the basics. So I'm full in on God's approach to this. So not only should we be willing to invest the time to go the next step with God, we humans have come to know many things along the way, but understanding, that remains especially elusive. And without the proper perspective, without context, without making the necessary connections, and without a discriminating filter, too much information can be distracting and disorienting, even misleading. This is the undercurrent supporting religion, politics, patriotism, militarism, and of course, conspiracy. So, yes, God wants us to know his name, but far more than this, he wants us to understand his name. There's a bigger difference between Amun Ra, Amun, Aten, Horus, Zeb, Isis, Osiris, Sobek, et al., and Yahweh than just his name. Yahweh's for real. He created man, and it was men who created all of these other imposters. By revealing the basis of his name, Yahweh explained its meaning, as well as how to pronounce it as well. So God said to Moshe, I am Haya. I was, I exist, and I always will be. The call imperfect first person singular of Haya, written Ihaya. I am. Showing the way to the benefits of the relationship because Asher, leading along the correct path to get the most out of life. I am. I was, I exist, and I always will be. Call imperfect first person singular. Shemot names, Exodus 3:14, at least in part. So God, Elohim, said to Moshe, one who draws out, Ihaya, Asher, Ihaya, I am, showing the way to the benefits of the relationship because I exist. Isn't it marvelous? Even to have Asher in the middle. Asher is the first word I translated, going back now a quarter of a century. I did so because of a prophecy that's become my favorite in 2 Samuel 7. It's about building homes and of fathers and sons and the ultimate kingdom that God is going to enable here on earth. And in that prophecy, right in the middle, you find the word Asher. Asher is a verb, it's a proper noun, it's a common noun, it is a preposition, it is so many things in Hebrew. One of the most full service words you could possibly imagine, and it means so much to us in this relationship. It literally draws a connection between things. It establishes a relationship between things, is what Asher does. And Asher is that which is beneficial, that which is a blessing. So it's to show the way to the benefits of the relationship. And Yahweh connected the two verbs, Ehaya, I am, with Asher, showing the way to receive the benefits of the relationship because I exist. Ehaya, Asher, Ehaya. Now, Yahweh, God's name, is based on the vowels which comprise Haya. 3 of the four letters in Yahweh's name come from the verb haya. And as in all things Hebrew, its actionable root defines its meaning, which is to exist. Yahweh exists. If we want to exist, it's essential we know Yahweh. It provides, of course, haya, all but one of the four letters in God's name, even replicating the presentation of the two heys. The order is different, with the opening hey moved to the conclusion of his name, which essentially makes Yahweh's name either feminine or, with my new understanding of the ending on words, it doesn't really make it feminine at all. It makes it fuller, more complete. So it's like a person having all of the nurturing and passion and love and emotional resonance of a woman, of the perfect woman, fully emotional, passionate, loving, devoted, kind, nurturing, and also to have all of the attributes that are so essential to a strong man. A sense of tenacity, of courage, of character, being driven by reason. And so with the ending, what we find is something that is conveyed to be more complete. Yahweh's existence is complete. Moreover, it was essential for Yahweh to have two people standing up in his name with a wall, which is the tent peg, which means I'm connecting these things together. The wall in Hebrew means and so in addition to this person, there is this person, and they represent that tent peg, and that they're enlarging and securing the home of our God. And so with the first name of Yahweh's name being a yod, a hand reaching down and out to us, we know that God is reaching down and out to us. And then there's two more hands, two people, both standing up, reaching up to God. 5 hands in Yahweh's name. That's important because there's 5 terms and conditions of the covenant, 5 benefits of the covenant. We have 5 hands that are significant because there's the 5 hands in Yahweh's name. He's reaching down to us, but if we're going to benefit, we need to reach up to him. Now, as it turns out, God's going to begin the first chapter of the first book of the Torah, Bereshith, telling us that there are 2 people, a greater and lesser luminary, that then are presented as the tree of knowledge and the tree of lives, that are essential to our relationship with Yahweh. And they are exemplars of how we develop this relationship with Yahweh. They are the 2 men who serve as the signs of the Moedim because they fulfill these 2 Moedim. And that's one of the reasons why there are 2 people with the haze. It's depicted by a person standing up and reaching up, looking up to God. And it means behold in Hebrew, pay attention. That's why there's 2 of them in Yahweh's name. So with the addition of the wall in their midst, this is the most common letter in the Torah. And it's also the first word in God's answer. He began wah, and then so, in addition, to increase, to include, to associate. This next statement in a series of things related to what I have just said, wah. A wah is about making connections which bring related things together. That comprehension becomes possible because we move from knowing to understanding. Now, haya can be translated as has been, was, am, will be, and become, to exist, to occur, to happen, and to transpire, to take place, to come about, and to abide. Haya appears over 3,500 times in the Hebrew text. What God is saying is that while his name is special, it is based upon the most common verb in the Hebrew language. He designed it that way. And with 3,500 iterations of his name, there are exactly half the iterations of haya as the verb as there are presentations of Yahweh's name, 7,000. And almost always when Haya is presented, it's rendered in the call stem, which denotes a genuine relationship, which should be interpreted literally. Asher, of course, is one of the most intriguing words ever scribed in the Hebrew language. It can be translated as simply as who, which, with, where, when, or so that, even because. But it is best understood when rendered as it was in God's declarative statement. My preference is to translate Asher as to show the steps along the way which lead to the benefits and the blessings of the relationship, and as to guide us along the correct path, albeit narrow and restrictive way, to get the most enjoyment out of life. As is the case with the Yahowah, Asher exists to establish a relationship between things, making comparisons. It conveys a relevant and relative reference, resulting in a better understanding of Yahweh's message to us. Asher can serve as a particle, a conjunction, a noun, a name, and as a verb. And it does all of those things. Asher is devoted to the relationship, conveys that this relationship is for our benefit, and that it exists to show the way, and that it serves as a benefit and a blessing to us. So Yahweh's answer conveys all of the following: I exist. I was, I am, and I always will be. I am God. I am responsible for your very existence. I am the source of your continued existence. I am exactly who I say I am. Therefore, by using these words, Yahweh told us, one, no, he actually exists. Two, that our continued existence is predicated upon him. Three, that relationships are of vital interest to him. And four, he told us how to pronounce his name. Yahweh is from Haya. And then, he said, Amar, tell this to the children of Yisrael. I am Ehaya, sent me to you. Shemoth, the names, Exodus 3:14. Well, again, there is no higher authority, no greater calling. The very source of our existence, the one and only God who actually exists, would travel from Mount Choreb in Arabia to the Nile Delta and back again with an 80-year-old stuttering shepherd to rescue his wayward children from the most oppressive, the most religious, political, and military power man had yet conceived. So clearly this would be interesting. It has been said so many times that we can be certain Yahweh wants everyone to know that he was on a mission to liberate his people, the children of Israel, from institutionalized religious and political persecution. God was not saving Orthodox Jews, faithful Christians, or deadbeat Muslims. He was not appealing to anyone's religion, but would instead mock religion, particularly when he was in Mitzrayim, and condemn religion on the way out, all while shattering its controlling consequences. Rather than blessing nations, he would destroy one, and over time, many more. God was not issuing commands. He was not delineating a set of laws or asking anyone to obey him. He was instead freeing Yisrael from the control mechanisms of man. And that is a stunning blow to Orthodox Jews, to Christians, and to Muslims. They have all sought to oppress Yehudim, either with their debilitating laws, ruthless persecution, or genocidal rage, with their imposition of apartheid against Jews. When such institutions stand in direct opposition to Yahweh's intent, we can be assured that God despises them and will ultimately destroy them. Now, those who promote the myth that God's name isn't known, that it isn't important, that it cannot be known or be pronounced, Well, of course, they just stopped reading at this point. But God was not finished speaking. Moreover, Shemoth names 3:13 and 3:14 are Yahweh's marvelous ways of telling us exactly how to spell and to speak his name, even understand his name. This was not a random narrative. Ehayah, Asher, Ehayah reveals the basis of Yahweh's name, the meaning of Yahweh's name, even the proper pronunciation of Yahweh's Shem. He has already left us without excuse. And yet he was not done talking. It is with profound animosity that I bring you this next statement. My frustration, of course, is not with God, but with his creation. It matters not if you read the KJV, the NKJV, the IV, the NIV, the ASB, the NASB, the ESV, or the JPS. The same error is universal among all of them. Yahweh answered Moshe's question directly, providing the prophet and liberator with his personal and proper name, not once, but twice. Even then, he said that Yahweh will be my name forever. It's my memorial for all generations. And yet, almost every scholar and theologian responsible for crafting a translation eliminated God's name, and they replaced it with Satan's ambition, the title Lord. The single and solitary name capable of saving us from mankind's religious and political schemes was removed by the people responsible for promoting these plagues. God continued, Wah-od, and furthermore, again and again, repeating himself beyond what would be expected to bear witness. God, Elohim, declared to Moshe, you should say to the children of Israel, Yahweh, God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Yishak, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my personal and proper name, my Shem, forever. From ancient past into futurity, throughout all time, and into eternity. This is the way I want to be remembered throughout every generation and dwelling place. Shemoth names, Exodus 3:15. It's unequivocal. It is men who have mucked this up, who have corrupted God's testimony to pursue their religious ambitions. Had God's name not been erased by Jews, and then Christians, and then Muslims, those three religions wouldn't exist. There would be no Judaism had Jews not erased Yahweh's name. Christianity would have been impossible. No one would have believed a Jesus Christ if Yahweh's name had been known and used. And of course, there would be no Allah claiming that he inspired the Torah had Yahweh's name been retained. And furthermore, again and again, God declared to Moshe, you should say this to the children of Israel, Yahweh, God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Yishak, the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my Shem, my personal and proper name, from ancient antiquity into the far reaches of the future, forevermore, throughout eternity. This is the way I want to be remembered throughout every generation and dwelling place. Yahweh is God's name. Yahweh has been and always will be God's one and only name. It does not matter who you are, what language you speak, or where you live. He does not care what you call a false god, but he does care what you call him. If you do not know God's name, if you do not refer to him as Yahweh, then let me be clear. You are likely religious, you are estranged from God, and you will never know him until you resolve that problem. If you are not using Yahweh's name, and no rabbi does, no Orthodox Jew does, no Christian does, of course, no Muslim does. And so if you're among the many, the billions, who do not know and use Yahweh's name, I can assure you, he is not listening to you. He does not know you. He does not have any interest in you. Your worship, your praise, your prayers are a waste of time and energy. In fact, they're counterproductive. You're antagonizing him. Yahweh is the one who established the covenant, doing so with Abraham, with Yishak, and with Jacob. Yahweh is our liberator and savior. Yahweh is the name Moshe used to deliver the children of Israel. God has no other name. The covenant has no other sponsor. The Torah has no other inspiration. There is only one God by one name who inspired the prophets. If Yahweh's name does not appear in the text of your scriptures, as it does not in the Talmud, as it does not in the New Testament, as it does not in the Quran, then you can be assured that those books were not inspired by God. The replacement title, the Lord, is not a name. And the Lord is not God. The Lord cannot save. There is no inheritance right associated with man's religious deities. Now, if I told you my name was Yada, and that Yada was how I always wanted to be known, and you ignored my request and you called me master instead, I would know several things about you. First, you don't know me. Second, you have no appreciation for who I am or what I'm trying to achieve. And third, you are intent on irritating me. Yahweh is God's name. The same lessons apply. My wife and my children bear my name because they're part of my family. Our Heavenly Father's name is Yahweh. For the same reason, his children are Yahudim, related to Yah. For those who may have fallen victim to the religious lie that G-D's name is too sacred to be spoken and or no one really knows how to pronounce it, here's some news for you. God just told Moshe to say it. Tell the children of Israel that Yahweh has sent you. The 4 Hebrew letters, which comprise Yahweh's name, Yod, He, Wah, He, are not unique. They're ubiquitous throughout the Torah. And yet no one claims that the Hebrew language is unpronounceable. In fact, there are 5 vowels and 17 consonants in ancient Hebrew, the language of Revelation. The Aleph, the Ain are vowels, as are the Yod, the He, and the Wah. And those last 3 comprise God's name. We know from countless other Hebrew words that a Yod is pronounced similarly to the letter Y in the English language, like, for example, yes. A He is pronounced Ah, as in Haya, the very basis of Yahweh's name. And we know from Torah and Shalom that the Wah conveys the O sound in Hebrew. Therefore, God's name is Yahweh. He has provided us with the proper vocalization. We are without excuse. Now we're going to end this program at this point because the king of the cables has a lot of work ahead of him to get our program set up for Family Hour and get everybody brought into this evening's program, which is a special celebration of matzah. So I thank you for listening. I'm glad we got to this point in this program so we can begin to post the basics on Yahweh's name. We have many, many more things to study and to learn from as we go forward, but we'll do that next week. I look forward to seeing you in, well, about an hour's time as we celebrate Family Hour during Matzah. Good night.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch Yao on our next podcast.